Hello and welcome back for another historic gameplay video. Today we're going to be taking a look at this vampire tribal deck. For the most part, this is a fair creature deck. However, we do have some value-oriented cards in our deck aimed at cheating out some of our vampires ahead of curve. We'll be using Sorin, Imperious, Bloodlord to try and cheat in a 6-drop early in the game. He's also able to put a 1/1 counter on our vampires and give them Death Touch and Lifelink for the turn, as well as sacrificing a vampire to deal 3 damage to any target and let us gain 3 life, which can be useful to deal the last few points of damage or to take out a small creature on our opponent's side of the board. We're also running 4 copies of Pyre of Heroes. For 2 mana, we can upgrade one of our vampires into a stronger version, and this also has some flexibility, letting us tutor a vampire that's potentially useful against what our opponent is trying to do. Although the vampires don't have a ton of prison effects to choose from, so we're not expecting this to necessarily win the game on its own, as much as provide value by growing our vampires into more and more powerful versions. Due to the Pyre, we are running a full curve of vampires. At 2 mana, we have the life-linking and death-touched Gifted Aetherborn. Then moving up to 3 mana, we have Creature of the Schism, which has Death Touch, and then additionally, whenever it attacks, depending on the life totals, we can either create a 1/1 vampire with lifelink, or we can draw a card, and occasionally we'll be able to do both effects if we have the same life total as our opponent. Nighthawk Scavenger is a variable-sized flying threat that has Death Touch and lifelink. And Quarcy Reverent, also flying Death Touch lifelinking vampire, can be exiled from our graveyard to put similar counters on a target creature, potentially buffing up one of our vampires that doesn't have these abilities naturally. Then moving up to 4 mana, we have the most variety. Kalidas, Trader of Git, a 3/4 lifelinking vampire that states if a non-token creature an opponent controls would die, it gets exiled instead, and we get to create a zombie token. We could also sacrifice another vampire or zombie to put some counters on Kalidas, which might or might not come into play. Bloodletter can double the life loss. Edgar Charmed Groom is a lord for vampires, and then when he dies, he comes back as an artifact. So this is a good card to sacrifice with the Pyre, since not only do we get to upgrade him to a 5-drop, but we also still get the artifact here. And the artifact states that during our upkeep, we get to create a 1/1 vampire token with lifelink. And then once we get up to 3 counters, we can remove them and transform this back into Edgar and potentially repeat the process. The last 4-drop we have is Drana and Linvala, flying in Vigilance, and it shuts off activated abilities of creatures our opponent controls. Additionally, Drana and Linvala gain those abilities. Moving up to 5 mana, Vona de Iedo, the Antifex, and when he enters, we get to destroy target non-land, non-token permanent. If we like, we can discard a card then and conjure a duplicate of that permanent into our hand. Moving up the food chain, 4 copies of Vein Ripper, the primary card that we're looking to put in off of Sorin. 6/5 with flying, and its ward cost is sacrificing a creature. Additionally, he states whenever a creature dies, we get to drain our opponent for 2 life. Pretty difficult to deal with, especially for decks that don't run a lot of creatures. Additionally, if we have a decent sized board, and our opponent uses something like a board wipe, there's always the potential that the drain from the Vein Ripper just kills our opponent outright. Another 6-drop that we have is Olivia Crimson Bride. With flying and haste, whenever she attacks, we get to return a creature card from our graveyard to the battlefield, tapped and attacking. And then whenever we no longer control a legendary creature, we have to sacrifice them. Pairs nicely with the Pyre of Heroes, as if we've already sacrificed a bunch of vampires to level up, she can return them back to the battlefield. And then at the very high end of our curve, at 7 mana, we have 1 copy of Saint Elenda. Since Sorin can no longer put her into the battlefield, we're only running a single copy, as something that we can upgrade our 6-drops to using the Pyre. The deck is additionally running a couple discard spells in the form of Thoughtseize and Inquisition of Kozilek. We don't have any built-in graveyard hate, so we're going to be leaning on them to disrupt any Reanimator decks, as well as other combo strategies, while we try and set up our value-oriented chain. And then since we're playing a tribal deck, we're also able to run Cavern of Souls in the mana base, making all of our vampires uncounterable. Looking at the deck, my concern is that it might be a bit too slow. But with the addition of the lifelink on many of these vampires, there is a potential that we can outrace some of the more fair decks in the format. And we can also potentially collapse our opponent's hand using the discard if they're on a combo-based strategy. When I started building the deck, I have the best of 3 format in mind. So we'll see today how we do in best of 1 as I'm still working on the sideboard. Hopefully during the matches, we can identify some of the deck's weak points and help us determine what type of answers we need to put in the sideboard for various decks in the meta. Before we jump into the gameplay, I'd like to ask you to please like and subscribe the video. It really helps the channel. And without further ado, let's jump into the games. This hand is extremely fair. We have a Thoughtseize for early interaction, and then no play until turn 3. We'll give it a try on the draw. Gives us some time to get our land drops in. Just a mountain from our opponent. Most likely a burn deck, could be wizards. And it does look like it's going to be wizards. Don't really care about the looting. I think Expressive Iteration is probably going to be the strongest card here. Of course, they top deck into a Delver. We'll hold full control here, make our opponent think we might have something. Hover over the Delver a couple times. Opponent does have good patience. They haven't fired off any of their burn spells at our face yet. They play out the pathway on blue before playing the looting. Seems like a bit of a mistake. And then here we can get down our first vampire. And since our opponent does have double blue up, we are going to play this out on vampire, use it to play something uncounterably. Do they have delirium yet? Sorcery and land only. They could get instant in there. I think we'll start on the Preacher. It's a bit harder to get rid of. They reveal their steam vents, means they're probably going to play it out this turn. Still need 2 more card types to get delirium for their unholy heat. And they discard it instead. Are they switching into an aggro roll? Nope. Just continuing to dig. Ah, Phoenix deck. So we could be under a bit of pressure. We'll have to see what we draw into, and actually Kalidas is great. Is this from anywhere? No, just when it dies. Couple choices for ours. I think we're going to do the Kalidas though. Probably should have played it out before combat. Delver doesn't flip again, so we've lucked out a bit in that regard. They like their card. Seems like it was another Consider. And did they have the 3rd spell? Unholy Heat. That's fine. This will return a Phoenix, and if they don't hold back, we can attack in with our token here. Play out another Cavern. And then between the Reverent and Drana, I think we'll play out Drana. Attack in. Opponent down to 13. We go back up to 15. And the Delvers don't flip again. Bit of bad luck for our opponent, I think, in that regard. And now we should be able to pretty handedly run them over, playing out the Vein Ripper. Alternatively, we could play out the Pyre and sacrifice something immediately. That would only get us up to a 5-drop. So we'll just get the Vein Ripper down, and then we can attack with everything. They can eat one of our tokens with the Phoenix, but the Vein Ripper will still get its damage in. Actually turns into a net positive for us. And the Delvers fail to flip again, prompting a concession. At this point, even if they did flip, I think we were in a good spot. Good game. This is another fair hand. We do have the mana to play out the Nighthawk already and the Revenant. I think we'll keep it. We're on the draw again. Opponent on a mulligan. It's going to be Wizards. Still going to Thoughtseize. See what they were mulliganing for. And then here, Wizards Lightning. They can't recast with the Arcanist. So I think actually we're going to take the Slick Shot. We could get punished for this later in the game if they draw into some 1-mana spells or get the ability to pump the Arcanist. And they fire off the burn spell instead of playing it out. Don't necessarily agree with that. We'll play out the Verge, hold full control, make our opponent think we have some action here that we didn't play out. We'll put full control on here as well. They drew into another Slick Shot, so we are able to impact our opponent's plays, giving us enough time to get out some defenses here. And then these are both the same at the moment, so I don't think it matters which one we play out as much. We'll play out the Revenant since it does have some impact if our opponent destroys it. They play out the Arcanist here and no follow-up. I think we're actually going to take it out right away. It's just too powerful to leave on the battlefield, and then we'll start pushing damage instead of holding back. The Soulscar Mage is able to put -1 counters on our creatures, and so if they have a burn spell, we don't necessarily have good blocks anyway. And there's the Flame. Down to 10. And Sorin is a great top deck. Let's just put the Vein Ripper in. At least going to tax our opponent's removal spells here. Symmetry Sage would have been good with the Arcanist. They're going to give it haste and sacrifice their creatures here by attacking in. So let's see, if we don't block the Show Off and we go for the Soulscar Mage or the Symmetry Sage, and our opponent has something like a cantrip, we'll still die. So I think we need to block the Show Off here. We'll gain some life. All right. So put a counter on Vein Ripper. Attack in. Gain 7 life. Play out our Cavern. Vampire. Then we can play out the Nighthawk and get our Pyre down. And that's enough for the win. Great game. This hand is good. We'll keep. Have Thoughtseize for early interaction. And then if we get up to 3 mana, we can put the Vein Ripper into play. Gigantha usually indicates Wizards, so we could be up against the 3rd Izzet deck in a row. although a couple mulligans here might mean they're on combo of some sort. I know decks like Eggs can play it since they don't have any color pips in their deck, but no, it's going to be Wizards again. So we're going to tear their hand apart. Swift Spear's Teaching. They think they can give their Arcanist haste. They need to draw into another creature here. Consider. We'll play out the third Swamp and the Sorin. Get the Vein Ripper going. Going to be very difficult for our opponent to overcome this. With the lifelink, they're going to have trouble racing. So they pretty much need to take out Sorin right here with a burn spell. But even at that, they're on a 3-turn clock. They move Jeggy to hand. We'll pump up the Vein Ripper, attack in. And then Pyre means next turn we can attack with the Vein Ripper and then cycle it into Elena. And there's another victory. So at least there's one deck in the meta that we know we're pretty strong against. On to the next. Another fair hand. We're on the play and we have decent mana. We'll keep. Opponent has a Gemstone Caverns. It's just a Reanimator deck. Yep. It's one of the only decks in the format that really plays the Caverns. So we're going to be in a lot of trouble here. It's likely they already have the combo in hand. Usually you mulligan till you have a Reanimate spell. Thoughtseize probably takes the Gifted Aetherborn. It's the card we can play out next turn. We do have some teeth against the Atraxa, but eventually they'll get a second creature into play. Raph and Mikey's going to be problematic as well. Luckily, the Scavenger survives the Is It Charm. They can only deal 2 damage. So we'll see if they can discard Raph and Mikey and reanimate it here. 3 bodies is going to be too much for us to overcome, I think. Wasn't a snap decision there, so maybe they don't have a 2-mana reanimation spell. No play from our opponent. I think we're just going to get another Scavenger down. This is uncounterable. And then next turn we can think about attacking in after playing out the Bloodletter if our opponent holds back again. Do we attack here? Again, I just don't think we can. Saint Elenda can shut down one of our blockers if they reanimate her before combat. It's also just another great way to generate more large bodies. Still digging. I've seen quite a bit of their deck, almost half. Surprised they haven't found another reanimate effect yet. They do play quite a few of them, usually between 8 and 10. So we'll see what they go for here. No Iona yet, which would be devastating. And they do pick Raph and Mikey, so we'll see what they flip into. Oh, Tali, that's a good hit for them. And they get a Fel the Profane, so we're not going to overcome the removal spell that they flipped. I don't even know what they got on their side. Another Necromancy. On to the next. This hand is fine. We do want to draw into a more expensive vampire to cheat in with Sorin. Elves could be a tough matchup. They're able to get around our Death Touch by just going wider and larger. We'll see if they have any of their pump spells. We can deal with this. Thoughtseize, unfortunately, is going to be a dead card. Play out Cavern on Vampire. Attack in. Is this only when cast? Nope, when he enters. So we'll play out a Sorin here.
I have not survived the legend to stand down now.
And then here, we'll get rid of one of their lords. We could have upgraded our Thoughtseize, but we'll hold on to it. Circle of Dream Druids. So as soon as they find a pump spell, we're going to be dead. Gladly trade for one of their mystics here. And then Pyre is a great top deck. Unfortunately, we don't have the mana to start utilizing it right away. Revenant's a bit larger than the Scavenger, so we'll play that out first. No play from our opponent. Saint Elenda, we can't hard cast. Down to 11. Llanowar Elves. Yeah, we'll take the trade. Fell the Profane means that we can start using Pyre here. Shock that in and attack. See what our opponent wants to do. They just take it. We'll upgrade the Revenant to a 4-drop. And here, we don't have any evasion. So maybe we'll just go for Edgar. And another Forest. So our opponent had all the ramp in the world, but never found a payoff card. Good game. This hand is okay. We'll keep. Probably rather see combo on our opponent's side here. Try and collapse their game plan with the Thoughtseize. It's going to be Reanimator. We'll take their Reanimate spell, but it probably won't slow them down too much. Opponent pretty salty over the Thoughtseize, roping us already, even though they're by no means out of it. They were clearly here because they were looking at our land, and so maybe they're trying to go to natural discard. Shock in, play an Aetherborn. They go to natural discard, and they discard a Jin Cataxius. Unfortunately, we miss our land drop, so we can't play out the Preacher here. Now they finally decide that they have a chance and start to play the game. They like 2 of their cards. So do we cycle the Aetherborn up or play out the Preacher? I think it's probably just playing out the Preacher. We weren't going to cycle into a 3-drop that has meaningful impact on the game. Jin Cataxius is fine. They'll get to discard the cards that they want here. They might even trade with the Preacher. We'll see. It does have Death Touch. Of course, we draw into the card that we're trying to level up the Pyre to. Opponent just takes it. Here we'll grab Edgar. Resentful Revelation's not going to do it. They need another blocker. So with a 2 or 3 turn head start, we were able to beat the Reanimator deck, which is a matchup that we never expect to win. On to the next. This hand is fine. We'll keep. Lead on the tap land. Mountain and a Swift Spear. We do have enough life gain in our deck that if this is aggro, we should be okay. They use a Chain Lightning on the Aetherborn. Hit for 2. And then have light up the stage. Unfortunately, we miss on our land drop, so we're starting to fall behind. Quarry Steelcutter. Did they fire off the Burst Lightning right away? Or do they have a better removal spell? Chain Lightning. They said they had a better one. I think if we miss our land drop here, we're just going to concede. And then here, we do have the option what to play out. I think we're actually going to start on Sorin.
I drink only the finest.
We'll put in Kalidas, pass the turn. I've never seen this card before. That is pretty strong. Opponent doesn't have a good attack here unless they have another burn spell. And they're prioritizing taking out the Sorin. This is attacking face. I think we will save Sorin here. Do they have a 2-mana burn spell to finish us off with? They do not. We'll put a counter on Kalidas. Attack in. Play out our Reverent. For the most part, I think we have this one under control, but you never know against the burn deck. No good attacks here for our opponent. What's the equip cost here? Pay 3 life. So they could move that over to the Slick Shot, but it would just die to the Reverent. They send Ball Lightning at face, Swift Spear at face. Gain 3 life from the Swift Spear. Create 2 zombies. And our opponent has decided to stop equipping the armor for now. Put another token onto Kalidas. That's the only one we need to attack with here. Then we'll play out another Sorin. And we'll put in Drana here. Another land. And our opponent concedes. Lifelink, very difficult for a aggro deck to overcome. Good game. Alright, so there you have the deck. Somehow we managed to pull off a positive record there. I think just a combination of our lifelink creatures and probably more importantly the Death Touch helped us get a number of victories. We were also able to use Sorin to cheat in some of our large vampires, allowing us to win a couple of the games. And unfortunately, I don't recall a game where Pyre of Heroes really got to go up the food chain to some of our larger vampires, but we were able to use it in a few of the matches to upgrade some of our mid-tiers, demonstrating how the card is designed to be used. After the first few games, I'm not so sure we don't want to go down a few copies of Pyre and maybe bring in some generic creature removal that we can use in the early game, since we do kind of have a bit of inevitability in the mid to late game against most decks. I'm excited to continue tinkering on this one and can't wait to take it into best of 3. As always, I'd like to thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for more content.